So what is your typical day like? I'm sure a lot of people want to know, what time do you wake up? What time do you go to sleep? What does your day consist of? How many times you work out? Can you give us like a general, when you're not traveling, of course, like when you're home, what is your typical day looking like?
It depends. The truth is, I have to get up at 4:30 in the morning.
Every day.
I have to get up at 4:30 in the morning. Now,
Why is that?
that's the schedule. 4:30 in the morning. Now, sometimes the reality is if I don't go to bed at 1, if I go to bed at 1, getting up at 4 is very, very, very hard. But in order to try to align some of these ducks that I have and try to hit everything effectively, because technically now, we have a lot of things to do, a lot of things that I have to speak in service of. With dynamic muscle supplements, we got, dynamic muscle comic, which is a thing that's developing, Chronicles of King Kai, which technically is now as a production behind the scenes, it's really, growing into a whole nother level of responsibility. And that's,
why do you have to wake up at 4:30? I'm curious because I saw a lot of people's schedules and they wake up like at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., like 5 a.m. Like, why 4:30 specifically?
Because if I don't, I will not be able to get through. Because each one of these company ideas that I have, and each one of these, they represent, a certain amount of work effort that has to be put in to it each day. And then when you consider, hey man, I gotta get up, I gotta train, I still gotta do my cardio. And then after I've done those things, then I still have to start, chipping through this stuff.
So you wake up at 4:30, then you do cardio right away?
Yeah. Now, gotta get up, gotta do the cardio. Cardio at my first meal, my first training session, which is almost insane to imagine to do when you consider the fact that now, there are so many other things that you really have going on that technically, someone would say, hey man, what are you doing that for? I still feel like when I get up in the morning and I take my Savage Roar and I get on the step mill, or, the reality is I feel like I am able to breathe and my thoughts just start running. And I'm able to start to get myself in a mindset where I'm able to start thinking about systematically how I start to approach my day, and prepare for meetings, prepare for, the next part of this process when we think about developing some of these other business ventures and even concepts that need to be developed. The variety show in itself had become, a very large responsibility. It had grown into a larger responsibility. What in the beginning was just some simple, improv here and there, and then, a colorful, costume here or there. And all right, kind of grew into, okay, wow, now I really have to sit down and organize, the bullet points for what becomes a script. And then now the script, I have to consider what happens with each of these characters and what's the meaning behind this character. What does this character want in this scene, and how does the conflict, what will be the interesting conflict? Hey, what's going on socially right now that, we could speak about, and what is the point, what's the punchline, So being more active with my writing, being a lot clearer about, what I need to do as a creator, and kind of developing what becomes the product, from the mind of the creator.
When you wake up at 4:30, you do cardio and you train on an empty stomach before you eat?
Yeah, I definitely do. Yeah, empty stomach.
Is it beneficial to train on an empty stomach as well?
Not really. I'll take some branch chain. It depends, A lot of times what will happen is you'll finish the cardio, you'll get wrapped up into moving from there right into your meal. And then from your meal, you're going to get a little bit of training in, and then it's right into calls.
And do you eat on schedule, or you just, like, at this point, do you still have like regimented meals like every few hours, or is it more like, is it loosely at this point?
Yeah, well, I have a meal prep with Trifecta, which has been really, really cool with helping me behind the scenes. The idea of standing around and cooking, and the old days of cooking at every meal and mapping it out and putting it in Tupperware and putting it in a bag and carry it with me and making sure that I have, 7 meals cooked, packed, and ready to go before I leave the house. Yeah, that's a lot more. It's become a lot more impractical to do today. But with that said, Trifecta has been really cool with being able to ship me my food, and I'm able to have it, throw it in the microwave, and I keep it. To answer your question about am I still structured with my eating? Yes. Enough to know that, hey man, I'm gonna do about 5-6 meals today before we call it a day. If I'm up a little longer than I'm supposed to, maybe 7. I have seen where there are times when you get carried away or wrapped up in a meeting, or just the throes of, trying to be responsible with developing your projects. And, oh man, what happened? Oh, I missed a meal. I missed 2 meals. And let me tell you, when I start painting and I'm sitting there and I'm working on my project, it's almost like that part of your brain, like, does not, listen to time. So that it doesn't yield to time. So it's like that part of your brain, I imagine, that is just, it's creative, and that creative process can unfold and you're totally oblivious to time. So you almost have to use your discipline to say, oh, wow, wait a minute, it's been 2 hours. I got to eat. What time was it? Hey, what's up? I'm going to say this, because of all the years that I spent, working as a professional athlete and a person that, successfully made a living, from, developing those disciplines of eating on time and things. I've developed some skills that allow me to be pretty good with looking at and assessing from sight. That's 4 ounces, and this is 6 ounces, and that's 8 ounces. Or, I'm pretty good with at times being able to, oh yeah, wait a minute, it's got to be, yep, okay, it's definitely time to eat. So watching the clock in that sense is not something that I do as much, just like the scale. I don't have to walk around with a scale today, much like I had to do, at other times earlier in my career, and my life as a developing man, when it came to my eating. But honestly, yeah, I still eat. I still eat in a very systematic and regimented way. Yes. Depends. So on days, so I have a schedule. I have to have my schedule. We draw up my schedule every 2-3 days. And, there are a lot of things that change in the schedule depending on, where we are in the week. But that said, I'm able to stick with my schedule for the most part. And through that schedule, I'm able to better map out feelers that allow me to, just try to stay on target with still remembering to eat and still, getting to the gym. I know now, though, that if I don't train at the time that I'm supposed to train, the way my schedule works out, I'll end up not being able to train at all. That's one of the things that come along with the responsibility of, some of the stuff that I've kind of developed at this stage in my life and career. And because my training is still very, very important to me, it's one of those things that just have to be on the schedule, and I have to be still just as disciplined with seeing that gets done. Yeah.
It's crazy. I remember when you were in prep, when you used to compete. I remember filming with you on the First Generation Iron. It was crazy. It was like 5 a.m. cardio and abs. Then you went home, ate, and then you went back to the gym, and then you went home, and then again, like 3 times you went to that gym. It was crazy, man.
But at that time, the most important thing in my life, was the thing that I was invested in, as distinguishing myself as an athlete in this life. And for that reason, the thing that helped me be very successful at that time in my life was for me to be very clear about just that, So when other objections would come, when other obstacles would start to come up to pull with their own demand on my time or on my concentration, because, at that time in my life, that was the chief way that I identified, my value and just who I said I was to myself in the mirror every day, it was the priority. It was the only thing that.
Tunnel vision. They call it, right? I think they call it tunnel vision, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, very interesting because, I realized too that there's a time and a place for everything. And I remember Lee Haney used to talk a lot about like balance, and one of the things that I could recall the entire time that I identified myself as solely a competitor or competitive athlete, there was no such thing as balance in that equation when you drew it out. It was all or nothing, all or nothing. That was the thing that we do all day, every day. And every thought that went into the course of that day in some way had to have a positive impact on how I improve my game, as an athlete.